It begins in Edwardian London, where Wendy, the oldest child, is telling stories about pirates and adventures to her younger brothers, John and Michael. But suddenly someone appears on the window, and their dog, named Nana, starts barking. It flies above their window and hides. The children go to the window to check it out, but they don't see anything. We're introduced to the Darling family, where the children's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Darling, are loving but stern. Mr. Darling is a banker. Their Aunt Millicent joins them. Wendy tells her family that she wants to become a novelist and write about her pirate stories. Aunt Millicent declares that Wendy is becoming a lady and is too old to stay with her brothers and must soon move into her own room. Wendy feels she's being forced to leave her childhood behind. That night, as the children are settling into bed, something magical happens. As Wendy is asleep, Peter Pan sneaks into their room, accompanied by his shadow. When he sees him, he's come to listen to Wendy's stories, which he loves. However, his visit takes a chaotic turn when the family's dog, Nana, alerts the household about him. Wendy gets up, takes a candle, and goes to look for him, but Peter narrowly escapes. But Peter's mysterious shadow is accidentally left behind. She's thrilled and intrigued by this incident. She draws Peter Pan on one of her school books and gets caught by her teacher, who sends a letter to her parents. As she's walking home, she sees the boy who is carrying her letter and tries to stop him as he is entering her father's bank. She runs to stop him, but her dog Nana runs ahead of her, slips and dashes into Mr. Darling and his colleagues at the bank. Mr. Darling is very embarrassed and puts Nana out of the house and tells Wendy to grow up. Mr. and Mrs. Darling head for a party and leave the kids with Aunt Millicent. Tinkerbell, a little fairy, opens the window and sparkles into Wendy's room. Peter returns to the Darling household to retrieve his shadow. The shadow does not agree to go quietly with Peter and creates a commotion as Peter tries to catch him. Aunt Millicent comes up to check the commotion, but the shadow acts as her and she goes away. Peter Pan is trying to reattach the shadow to him. When he wakes up and sees him struggling with the same, shocked looking at her, he flies up to the ceiling. She is astonished to see him fly. They both introduce themselves, and he says his name is Peter Pan. She offers to help sew it back onto his feet. Wendy manages to stitch the shadow back on Peter. As they talk, Wendy learns about Neverland, a magical place where Peter lives with the Lost Boys. These are children who, like Peter, have chosen to never grow up. Peter tells her that he ran away from his parents as he heard them talk about what he will become when he grows up and he met Tinkerbell. Peter offers to take Wendy and her brothers to Neverland so she can continue telling stories. Wendy, enchanted by the idea of adventure, agrees. Peter sprinkles pixie dust on Wendy, John, and Michael, teaching them how to fly. With a few happy thoughts, they soar out of their bedroom window, over the rooftops of London, and into the starry sky. They head for Neverland. Nana tries to follow them, but then goes to the party and dashes into Mr. Darling to get him home, and they find that the kids are not in their beds. Mr. and Mrs. Darling panic, and through the stars, they go to Neverland. The Darling children arrive in Neverland, a fantastical island filled with lush forests, sparkling lagoons, and hidden dangers. A pirate named Captain Hook is woken up by his partner, who informs him that the winter is over and spring has begun. The pirate is ready to take revenge on Peter Pan for cutting his hand, which he fed to an alligator, and him having to use a hook after that. He realizes that if spring is here, Peter Pan has returned back. Peter Pan, Wendy, and the boys are spying on the pirates from the clouds, and they notice Hook and go closer. Hook sees them hiding behind the clouds and aims a cannon at them. Wendy blasts away, while John and Michael are hanging onto a cloud and are almost falling down. Peter Pan goes towards the ship to distract Hook and tells Tinkerbell to go find Wendy. Tinkerbell is jealous of Wendy and decides to get rid of her. Peter Pan manages to distract Hook, flies away, and Hook is furious. John and Michael can't hold onto the cloud and fall into a lagoon in Neverland. Hook tells his men to go into the jungle and find the kids. The Lost Boys in Neverland see Wendy flying towards them and think she's a bird. Tinkerbell gets to the Lost Boys and tells them that they have to shoot Wendy down. They manage to shoot her down. The Lost Boys get to her and think she's dead. Peter Pan gets there and says that he has got them the girl that tells all great stories. He is excited for them to meet her, but he then sees her lying on the floor and asks them who shot her. One of the Lost Boys owns up, but Wendy moves a little, and they realize she's alive, and they decide to build a house around her. Two of the Lost Boys tell Peter Pan that Tinker Bell did this. Peter Pan calls Tinker Bell and throws her away, saying that she's not his friend anymore. Tinker Bell flies away, sad. When Winnie wakes up, the Lost Boys ask her if she can be their mother. She says that she doesn't have any prior experience, but she will try her best. They are delighted. They take her to meet Peter Pan at his hideout. It's a sprawling underground treehouse. He jokingly says that he will kill them as they injured Mother Wendy. But Wendy suggests something far more dreadful: medicine. She suddenly realizes that her brothers Michael and John are not around. Michael and John are rambling in the jungle of Neverland, and suddenly they get caught in a trap set up by Princess Tiger Lily, daughter of the island's native chief. Tiger Lily falls down on the ground laughing after she sees that she got John and Michael in her trap. Hook and his crew were passing by. They question and torment Tiger Lily to reveal Peter's hideout, but she refuses. But Michael sees Hook tormenting the girl and demands him to let her go. Hook captures them all. Peter Pan and Wendy go to the mermaids to find out where are Wendy's brothers. The mermaids tell Peter Pan that Hook has her brothers in the Black Castle. Hook and his crew tie the princess, Michael and John, onto a rock, as Hook waits with a gun to shoot Peter Pan when he comes to save them. Peter Pan gives Wendy a sword and checks if she can fight. He asks her to leave Hook for him and leaves her on top of the tower until he'll give her a signal. Wendy screams his name, trying to tell him to take her with him, but he doesn't stop. Hook hears her scream and gets to the top of the tower and looks for her. Peter Pan tricks Hook's crew to let the kids go by imitating Hook's voice. Hook gets there and asks the crew why they let the kids go. Peter imitates Hook's voice, and Hook realizes that it's Peter Pan. Hook keeps asking Peter Pan questions to keep him engaged in the conversation and find his location. Hook finds Peter Pan and is almost going to shoot him, but when he tells Peter Pan to watch out, and he flies away. Hook's crew closes the gate of the castle, so no one can get out. Hook and Peter Pan engage in a duel. When he starts fighting a pirate too, Michael and the princess try to open the gate by pushing a lever, but they get attacked by a pirate. Michael handles the situation and throws the pirate into the water. The princess is very impressed and kisses him. He then pushes the lever and opens the gate. Hook catches Peter Pan and throws him into the air for the cannon to shoot a net on him, and he falls into the water. The children jump onto a boat and throw the pirate out of it and hijack it. Peter manages to cut the net and finds ground. But due to his tough luck, Hook is there and he attacks him. Hook almost has Peter Pan under his claws, but he looks out the gate and he finds a huge alligator. And the next second, Peter has disappeared and is on the ship with his friends. As they return home, Peter takes Wendy to see the fairies, who light up the forest like tiny stars. They see the fairies dancing, and Peter asks Wendy for a dance. They dance surrounded by fairies. Hook sees them dancing as he's searching the forest and meets sad Tinker Bell. She tells Hook that she is banished by Peter. Hook suggests that Tinker Bell and him should unite. When he asks Peter what he feels, he hears something and he understands Hook is near. She asks him if he feels love. He says he doesn't know anything about it. She says he does, and there's so much more to it, they'll get to know when they grow older. He says he doesn't want to grow older and tells her to leave him alone and leaves her there. Wendy goes to her house and cries. Peter goes to Wendy's actual home in London and finds her mother waiting with a window still open for them. He tries to close the window, but Mr. and Mrs. Darling keep it open, saying it'll always be open for their kids. When Wendy gets up, she finds that her house is on Hook's ship. Wendy goes and meets Hook, who treats her well. Tinker Bell is locked up in a glass box. Hook tells her that Peter Pan is not capable of love. Wendy starts crying on hearing that. But Hook cheers her up and asks her to join him and become a pirate. She says she'll think about it. He says he'll leave her where they found her, and none of his crew will follow her. Wendy goes to Peter Pan's secret hideout, but Hook's parrot sees her entering. Peter Pan picks up swords as he says that the mermaids told him that the pirates have a new crewmate who is a girl. Wendy confesses that she has been invited to join the pirates, and she challenges Peter Pan to a fight. He disarms her. She says that she feels Hook is better since he has feelings, and Peter is just a boy. The Lost Boys, Michael and John, are upset and ask her if she will become a pirate. Wendy says no, but says they're going back home. Peter says if she wishes so. Peter says he has arranged a ferry to drop them to the real world. Wendy says she was talking to the Lost Boys, and some of them want to come with them to the real world, and asks Peter if he wants to join. He says they can go too. Wendy asks him to join too. But Peter says that he always wants to remain a child and have fun. But Wendy tells him that this is his biggest pretend. Tinkerbell escapes the glass box by teasing Hook's parrot, who opens the box. And she then pushes him into the box and flies away. Hook gets to Peter Pan's hideout. The Lost Boys are all tied up and captured outside. Wendy gives Peter his medicine and walks out, and she is captured by Hook as well. Hook goes into Peter Pan's hideout and tries to attack him, but he is unable to get into the place Peter Pan is sleeping, as it is too small. Since Hook can't reach him, he removes a poison to pour into Peter's medicine. Peter Pan goes to drink his medicine, but Tinkerbell rushes to him and drinks the medicine instead of him. Tinkerbell goes cold, and her light starts dimming out. Peter is really upset that Tinkerbell is no more. The pirates set up a plank for the Lost Boys to walk on and fall into the sea. The weather suddenly changes and it gets very stormy. Hook thinks Peter Pan has died. Peter Pan cries and a drop of his tears fall on Tinkerbell, and he begins to say, "I do believe in fairies." Wendy and the Lost Boy start saying the same as well. Everyone starts saying it, and Tinkerbell comes back to life. Hook threatens Wendy and asks her, "How does Peter Pan fly?" She doesn't say, so he attacks her, and one of the Lost Boys says that fairy dust and happy thoughts help him fly. Hook forces Wendy to walk the plank, and he shakes it and pushes her down. But they don't hear a splash, and they think that a monster has swallowed her whole. Hook plans to do the same to all the Lost Boys. The pirates see the shadow of an alligator on the sails and panic. Peter Pan saves Wendy and comes aboard but hides so that Hook does not see him. Peter Pan cuts the ropes that bound the Lost Boys. The pirates then figure out that the alligator shadow is just Tinkerbell holding a crocodile watch. Peter Pan appears in front of Hook, and they start fighting. The Lost Boys grab swords and join in, turning the ship into a chaotic battleground. Hook grabs Tinkerbell and sprinkles some fairy dust on himself and begins to fly. Hook tries to play with Peter Pan's mind and tells him that Wendy was leaving him and she would rather grow up than stay with him. He says there is someone who can take his place called husband. He says this and disarms Peter. Hook captures Peter Pan and is almost going to kill him, but Wendy intervenes and she is thrown beside Peter Pan. Wendy apologizes to Peter that she has to grow up and kisses him. Peter Pan turns pink and blows all the pirates away. He then goes up to Hook, gives him a sword, and they start fighting again. Hook is pushed towards the sea, and he sees an alligator below him. He tries to think happy thoughts, but is unable to do so and is swallowed by the alligator. Peter Pan whistles and calls all the fairies, and they carry the ship away. Wendy, John, and Michael return back to their home in London, where time seems to have barely passed since they left. Their parents, who had been worried sick, are now overjoyed to see them safe. The Lost Boys get there too, and Wendy asks her parents if the Lost Boys can stay with them. Mr. Darling agrees, and they are all a happy family. Peter watches from the window with a bittersweet smile on his face. He bids Wendy a silent farewell, promising to always visit her for stories, and he flies off into the night sky. Thank you guys for watching. I hope y'all liked the video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to watch many more such cool recaps. And hit the bell icon too.